Hi, everybody. We're so glad you could join us. Welcome to our first meeting in a new series of virtual Women in Salesforce meetups. We're so happy that you could join us. Just as a bit of background for those of you who are newer to Women in Tech Republic, myself and some of my colleagues at the Republic founded this community towards the end of last year. And since then, we've grown to a community of over 2,500 women in tech from across the UK, Germany, Netherlands, and of course the US. At the beginning of July, we ran our first global Women in Tech Week, which saw over 500 attendees across 4 events. And now we're here with you all, running our first virtual meetup. Today, we are excited to be joined by 2 incredibly experienced and successful Salesforce professionals. We have Anna Pappas, who is a Senior Director and Financial Services GTM lead for Salesforce at Capgemini, who will be speaking first. And then we have Devin Spence, who is a solutions architect and the founder of Seelman Consulting, who will be going second. So without further ado, Anna, if you would go ahead and get started.
Well, hello everyone, welcome. My name is Anna Pappas. I am the Senior Director, as Kira said, at Capgemini. My role is to ensure that all of our banking and capital markets clients who have a need for Salesforce, or more importantly, who have business needs, where Salesforce or MuleSoft or Tableau or Encino would be a great fit. That my role is to ensure that we are having those conversations within all of our key accounts here. I work directly both with Salesforce from a overall relationship standpoint, but then also work directly with a lot of our banking clients, which are in the Fortune 50 range. You've not heard of Capgemini, or maybe you have. We are one of the big 4 consulting firms in the world, and very proud to be representing Capgemini today. So welcome to all of you who are here. So I am just going to share just a little bit about myself. My whole conversation today isn't going to be about me, but I think it's important just to share a little bit about my background so that you can understand kind of how I got to where I'm at today, and how, as any of you are progressing throughout your careers, maybe what you're doing today doesn't feel like it could possibly fit into the Salesforce environment, or if what you're doing today from a broader standpoint, from a platform standpoint, could be a great entry point for you. So when I got out of college, believe it or not, I actually started as a marketer in the manufacturing industry. And my whole role was to really do a lot of what your traditional marketers do, is understanding who the client is, right? Understand what their buying cycles look like, understand what their propensity to buy was like. Put together marketing campaigns and public relations and brochures and collateral and all of these things. And then I moved into AT&T Telecom, which then turned into more of a product management role. So understanding, again, from a marketing standpoint, what do the channels look like? Who's going to buy the products? What do the right price points look like? The majority of this really has been about business-to-business marketing, right? And so, again, understanding who within those businesses is going to buy that, who's that buyer. From there, I, transitioned into a variety of different roles in product management, including working in industrial products like for US Robotics, which some of you may or may not remember was one of the first companies to introduce the modem, which got us all on the internet back then, before the internet was kind of invented. No, I am not that old, I promise. And then transitioned into sales from marketing, and got my very first Salesforce consulting gig back in 2009, probably when Salesforce was just first starting out. And so I remember my first introduction to Salesforce back then and seeing the product, and I really fell in love with Salesforce back then, because as a marketer, I could see this tool being so phenomenal in helping both the marketing side and the sales side understanding and keeping track of the customer and their demographics and everything that we needed to know about the customer, but automating it. And it was just, kind of this early stage of automation and technology and PCs and all that stuff. So it was very cool. Also, back then, as you can imagine, there were not a lot of women in technology back then. So I found it very cool to be in this industry where, women were just beginning to get into. So it was very exciting. So I've gone into banking and then back into consulting. But the one thing that I do want to make clear is no matter what role I have been in, no matter what industry I have been in, two things are always very clear that have been very important is who is the customer? The customer is always at the center of every role I've ever been in. Knowing who that customer is and how to interact with them and how to reach them and how to address their pain points and needs has been critical in every single role that I've ever had, which is why I love and appreciate what Salesforce can do with clients and the platform. And I'll talk a little bit more in detail about that. The second piece of it is with these tools, right, that you want to build on and grow on, how do we make that customer experience exceptional, right? And the way to do that is by knowing as much about the customer and relating back to that as much as possible. And what I say about that is think about somebody that you've been dealing with that, maybe you're in a business relationship with. Think about how it makes you feel when they know when it's your birthday or if you're having a baby or if you're getting married, right? The more you are interacting in that relationship and the more that person or entity or corporation knows about you and remembers that about you, that helps improve your customer experience with them, right? We always want to have great customer experiences. So all that really is related to what we consider in this industry called customer relationship management, all the background and details on that. And that's what Salesforce originally started to be. When it came out into the marketplace, it was all about customer relationships. And today, that whole customer relationship has really changed a lot, and especially with the innovations and technologies, customers today not only want you to know who they are, but they want you to know a lot more about them, right? They want to be able to interact on their own. They want you to be able to interact with them on their mobile phone. They want you now to know what they want without them telling you, right? Like just like Netflix produces, suggestions for you, right? Everybody wants that Netflix experience everywhere else. And so customer relationship management and more than that is becoming very critical in our daily business dealings every single day. So Salesforce has transformed from just a CRM tool to what I would call an entire platform in delivering a true customer 360 experience with a lot of our clients. And I will tell you, I have been a customer of Salesforce in some of my business roles when I've been managing, divisions or groups or, a product owner, but I've also sold Salesforce. And so what's very helpful, again, back knowing who your customers are, is understanding what those pain points are. What are the business outcomes and drivers that we are trying to help our clients with? And as we look at that, we have to look at a multiple omni-channel approach to how we work in the business world. Everything from marketing, right, which is our pre-sales activities, right, when we're trying to maybe build our brands, trying to get people to understand who we are, trying to understand our name, right, but also begin to do some lead generation. So Salesforce now has also brought in products outside of just the traditional client relationship management piece to incorporate and include Marketing Cloud, right? And marketing technology products that now deal with CDP, which is Customer Data Platform, which is all about some of the data capabilities that we can run analytics with. They've also now, obviously the sales piece of it is our CRM, understanding who our clients are. They also now on their platform have a lot of service capabilities and components. Think about your experience, right, during this pandemic, right? We've all had to suddenly go online. The amount of times you were on hold, customer service agents trying to get something accomplished. Well, a lot of companies weren't prepared for this, right? And so our big initiative here is with contact centers, right? And doing Service Cloud, which allows you to incorporate a lot of the IVR capabilities so that agents become a lot smarter, and we can also become a lot more efficient with how calls are coming in and better understanding the customers. And what's really important here when we are talking about Salesforce in the business context, a lot of companies are looking at how do I start my customer journey from the marketing standpoint, bring them into sales, and then continue to service them when they're calling the contact center and the service center. And traditionally in the past, it was like having silos in these organizations because none of the systems could talk to each other. They were all separate systems. They were all independent. You know, if you called in about, especially in a banking environment, right? If you started your relationship at the bank by just opening up a checking account, and then you wound up getting a mortgage or something like that. In the past, a lot of these companies didn't know you were a multi-client of the same environment. And so Salesforce really now has evolved as a platform product that allows companies to really understand all the different entry points that a customer is coming into that business, and understands if you just made that call from a checking standpoint, the customer service agent can now see, well, they also made a call from a mortgage standpoint. So I now can begin to deliver a much richer customer experience. It also shows our customers' clients, our clients' customers, that they know who's coming in, right? It's giving that full 360. Another key component that Salesforce has really added that enhances that omni-channel and customer experience standpoint is communities. The ability for you to be able to self-serve yourself, right? Without having to always constantly talk to a customer service agent or customer relationship management person, right? Being able to sort of get into the environment and understand how to interact with that company and get the information that you need very quickly without really, you know, especially some of you are doing things at midnight, right? Typically there's no 24-hour service desk in a lot of these clients. So I want to be able to get those answers, you know, at midnight when I need to. So it's about serving me where you need to serve me, when you need to serve me, and how you need to serve me to our communities. And then we're obviously seeing this huge increase in commerce. And again, Salesforce is there to provide that commerce capabilities for you to buy products and services, but also sharing that information that you're an online customer. So if you're calling into the sales department or the service department at any given point, those agents know that you have purchased products, right? And then obviously one of the other key things that has really evolved in the Salesforce environment is now catering and customizing a lot of the vernacular and the way each different industry works based on the specific industry. So Salesforce obviously accommodates every single industry out there. So the product that you get out of the box is pretty generic, right? And so what happens, especially for, you know, consultants like Capgemini, what we typically do is work with our clients and understand their industries so that we can help customize Salesforce for their specific industry. You know, what does the specific vernacular look like in manufacturing versus financial services versus healthcare, right? Or what's important information to gather when you're a financial services customer versus being a manufacturing customer? Or how do you typically service your products or services, right? Or how does the contact center need to interact with your clients in financial services or, you know, manufacturing? So a lot of what happens is clients will typically purchase Salesforce directly through Salesforce, straight out of the box, very generic. And sometimes, you know, depending on how big of a company that might work, they may not need anything. But a lot of these larger companies that, you know, work with need a lot more industry specific insights and development on their Salesforce platform. So that's where companies like Capgemini bring in a lot of that industry background and expertise to be able to very quickly customize Salesforce for clients and then get them out to market very quickly. So beyond just, again, the sales, the service, the marketing cloud platform of Salesforce today, Salesforce has now understood that businesses from a digital transformation require a lot more than just that front office user interface piece. How do I, talk to my customers? They now require a lot more of integration. So if are following Salesforce at all, you'll know that they just purchased a company called MuleSoft a couple of months ago, maybe a little bit less than a year ago. I can't remember all these dates there so quickly. But what MuleSoft does, it provides APIs, which is a word I didn't even know existed. But probably the best way to understand what an API does is imagine that you're sitting in a restaurant and the waiter comes to you and asks you what your order is, right? So the waiter takes that order and then brings that order to the kitchen to make your order. That's what an API is. It's really that person or the tool that is getting the order from Salesforce and delivering it to the right place within the other systems within a client to extract the information, get that information. Things like HR systems, right, which are not typically part of a CRM platform, right? Let's say we're trying to use Salesforce as an employee engagement tool. Well, a lot of HR systems are completely different systems. So you could use an API to make a call out to get that employee information and bring it back into your Salesforce. And a lot of companies, especially in the banking industry, right, have a lot of older disparate systems that aren't always communicating to each other or, have data in different formats in different places. And so MuleSoft is a great tool that, again, works with Salesforce to be able to bring all of that integration and employee integration and data in together. I just finished talking about employee engagement. Typically, you would not consider in the past Salesforce as an employee engagement tool, yet it's a great employee engagement tool. Salesforce has a lot of collaboration tools within the system itself to be able to chatter with some of your colleagues or store important documents, or instead of using email all the time, you can just ping people or create comments on certain sales records so that you're constantly communicating and collaborating. It also allows you to be able to store documents, store collateral. And again, if I'm sitting in sales or if I'm sitting in service and I've got a customer calling in and I'm seeing information about that, I can quickly reach out to somebody in sales to get more in-depth information about the client and better understand what we sold them or when we sold them or what the issue are, right? So again, it goes beyond just your traditional CRM system from the past. There's also a ton of learning opportunities, right, to understand what Salesforce is, what Salesforce does, and certifications within each of the different clouds from a marketing standpoint, sales standpoint, right? They have a phenomenal training and certification program. And I will tell you, I strongly encourage all of you to go out to the Salesforce website and start taking some of these trailblazers, right? Earn some of these certifications. It can help increase your market value out in the professional workforce. A lot of companies such as Capgemini and others, right, even smaller companies, are constantly looking for Salesforce certified personnel across the entire ecosystem, from sales, people who are certified in the sales side, to solution architects, to customer service and support, to client success people. And all of that comes through a lot of these certifications. Talking about success, one of the key things that is very critical is we see a lot of clients spend a ton of money on buying all these big software systems, and then they don't know what to do with it, right? So there is an entire professional track on helping our clients be successful through adoption, through marketing communications internally on how to use the tools, through training themselves on how to use Salesforce, right? Both from across the platform, all these different clouds. So as you can see here, it isn't just a tool for CRM, it is an entire ecosystem from a business standpoint, everything from the employee side, the sales side, the service side, the customer success side, the training side, and everything in between there. On top of all of that, on the left side here, you'll see I talk about mobile and lightning user experience and integration and security and IoT. All of these, again, are key components that are happening in the marketplace at our clients that need to be pulled into Salesforce, especially IoT. The amount of devices that our people are needing to integrate into Salesforce, and the capability to do that is endless. Your mobile devices, especially in manufacturing, right? IoT is a huge component there, where people are putting things like thermostats or trackers, all of that component. And then the other big thing that I think really makes Salesforce very complementary is all about analytics and insights in analytics, and Einstein, right? Data and analytics is one of the biggest requests from an innovation standpoint from a lot of our clients, especially those who've had Salesforce for a long time, now want to begin to add a lot of that data and analytics piece to understand, rather than looking through all of that information, I want a tool that says to me, which customers are right now in the buying cycle for new mortgages, which customers are in the buying cycle right now for some of these business loans, right? So we're using a lot of data and analytics today to be able to serve up that information proactively in our client environment, so that they're not looking for that. Instead, we're giving them things like next best action when we're talking to our clients for their customers, right? Or what is the propensity of this, 1,000 customers that you got? Which percentage of them are interested in these products or services? Or how do I increase wallet share, right? If I've got, out of my 1,000 customers, I've got 25% of them that have a certain amount of products, how do I now begin to increase, the amount of products and services that I can sell them? And data and analytics are becoming a key component in delivering a lot of that information for our customers. So how do we at Capgemini work within the Salesforce environment? I kind of broke it up into 4 key buckets here. One is obviously innovations. Clients are constantly asking us to develop on the sales platform really cool, innovative ways to use Salesforce that is different and unique than perhaps some of the other industry clients are working on. So we're very focused on working in a lot of different innovations. The other key thing that clients are asking for us, and the big buzzword right now, is omni-channels, right? As you know, the digital age has given us so many different choices of how we interact with clients. And a lot of clients just don't know how to handle that. And so we work with a lot of clients to be able to bring in a lot of those omni-channel capabilities onto the Salesforce platform, whether it's mobile or website or, maybe the traditional brick and mortar. You'd be amazed how some folks are actually somewhat going back to that a little bit. New technologies, right? So again, how, a bank is a bank and they've got probably good IT departments, but they're sort of focused on their banks and their IT areas. So they're looking for companies like Capgemini who are experts in Salesforce technologies, mobile technologies, and AWS and cloud and all of that stuff to help them sort of pull all of these together. And then the 4th area that we're getting a lot of requests, just again from a consulting standpoint on the Salesforce platform, is how do I become, like a different kind of bank, right? how do I begin to deliver new ways of working with customers or new services? So I'll break that up in a little bit of buckets to just kind of share with what we're seeing. So when I talk about, omni-channel, right, we look at, again, the contact center, their website, mobile, retail, branch, or self-service. And typically, some of the decision makers in these environments are what we call the customer journey, right? Who are looking for those key different attributes within their company. So we're working with, executive vice presidents of the customer service center, or a chief marketing officer, right, who's perhaps responsible for their website, or a chief revenue officer, right, who is again trying to increase sales in a certain channel, or HR, right, how do I begin to serve some of my employees here? As we then go back into technology, right, how do I begin to deliver new ways of using Salesforce? How do I automate it so that I'm not constantly having to think about it, but rather Salesforce is giving it to me in a very proactive way? Things like, again, chatbots, right? I'm sure you've all interacted with chatbots in some way or form, whether it's on a website or on your mobile device. Those are, again, all these different technologies that clients are asking us for, what makes our value as a partner to Salesforce above and beyond just the traditional CRM system. And then obviously we are being asked to do cool new things with traditional things like, how do I begin to give my clients, customers, a much more personalized experience, right? Kind of going back to that old traditional CRM capability of knowing who I am, knowing where I am, knowing what am I looking for sometimes before even I know what I'm looking for, right? Bring these ideas to me. And more importantly, this whole customer 360, right, is knowing everything about me and my interactions with my clients. So just kind of at a very high level, I also want to just talk about, especially in financial services where I typically sit, it's a pretty big market opportunity for Salesforce and the revenues that you can bring to your clients, to your customers, to your, place of employment. It's pretty big. In fact, I think many of you, if you know anything about Salesforce, have just recently heard Salesforce has just been added to the Dow exchange, which is a big deal, very big deal. So, and Salesforce, in the middle of a huge pandemic, just posted some of their best numbers ever. So Salesforce is here to stay. I think there's a tremendous opportunity for you if you're looking for career paths, if you're looking for new opportunities, if you're looking to be part of the process, part of the environment, part of the ecosystem, both either at Salesforce or through a client or through a consulting firm. Lots of opportunity there, and growing, constantly growing, because they're constantly adding new things to their list of offerings. And that's it. I think I'm right at about a half an hour. Yep. I will pause there and answer any questions folks might have.
Thank you so much, Anna. That was really insightful. I enjoyed every second of it. We do have a couple questions. What does the future of FinServ and Salesforce look like to you? What direction do you think it's heading?
I am very excited about the future of financial services and Salesforce. And I say that because financial services is in this middle of this huge digital transformation, right? I think they've talked about it a lot in the past, but now with this whole pandemic, right? And the constant threat of, a lot of these, what we call paytechs coming into the place, financial services companies are really getting to be a lot more innovative, a lot more trying to get, what's the word I want to say? Digital savvy, like to be able to provide everything to you on, your mobile phone and all that stuff. So I see huge growth, continued growth in a lot of my clients, but also an expansion, right? I think in the past, a lot of clients were primarily just focused on the CRM capabilities of Salesforce. And now we're really seeing a lot a lot of request and demand for marketing services, marketing cloud, customer data platform, and personalization, also equally coupled with customer service.
Thank you so much, Anna.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Devin is a Salesforce solutions architect and the founder of Seelman Consulting.
So first off, thanks so much for the group. This is my second Women in Tech event, and they're just so much fun. And I do see some familiar faces, and it's really, really cool. I think the ecosystem is getting better, but I think we're still relatively underrepresented, and just like seeing the unity here is really powerful. So a little bit about me. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for about 7 years now. I started as an admin, then switched over to the consulting side, worked my way up from a BA to a senior solution architect, dabbled a little bit in life sciences, and then mostly FinServ, which is financial services, for the past couple years. So I was the crazy person to say, okay, the world is burning. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Let me just start my own company and do it that way. So after thinking about it for a couple years, I quit my full-time job and have been focusing on building out what Seelman Consulting. Seelman's my maiden name. And as of right now, I'm a one-woman show and hoping to expand in the next couple months to hire a pretty cool team. So what I want to talk about today is our new normal, right? How COVID has really shifted how we interact with each other, how we interact with our employees, how we interact with our clients. And I don't really see it going anywhere anytime soon, right? We've been in this, at least in the Northeast, for the past 6 or so months. And I think it's going to really shift how at least Salesforce ecosystem and how tech is for years to come. So I kind of want to talk about a little bit of a narrative of as a consultant and putting that hat on and how to kind of survive what's going on here and make it a positive. And then talk about as a manager, how you can support the people working under you, again, with everything that's going on. And then finally, just putting on this hat of like, as a lady in tech, how does this impact you, right? Because we always have a lot more responsibilities than everyone else, and just kind of how to keep your sanity and use it in your favor. So how can you be an all-star consultant during this time? I think it's really important to know your audience. I've had clients that have almost closed up shop, and they're like, we really don't know what to do. This is a huge curveball. We were never prepared for this. And then we have other clients that are just, we need so much help because business is booming. Again, we weren't prepared for this. And that's really where the consultant role comes into play. So I think it's really important to be an active listener and understand your audience, whether you're on an initial kickoff call or you've been on a project with whether it's managed services or several phases of implementation for several years with a client, just understanding how COVID has impacted them. Not only that their employees are very stressed out and dealing with all of this stuff, maybe they have high turnover, maybe unfortunately they had to cut a lot of people, but just really understanding every company, every client is very different. And I think this is an interesting opportunity to transition to a true partner. And I put true partners in quotes there because everyone says, oh, we're your Salesforce partner, we're your consulting partner. But the truth is 9 times out of 10, you're a vendor, right? So you're hired to do X, Y, and Z. Yes, you give your expertise and everything, but you don't really have that true partnership to kind of go through the highs and lows. And I think this is a great opportunity to transition into that full partnership. And some examples that I've implemented and that some of my clients have is really, it's kind of like an a la carte type service. So we've been doing a lot of quick starts. Anna mentioned that there's people that are just trying to get on Service Cloud right now because they have an influx of people just asking tons and tons of questions about their products because everybody's home doing nothing in quarantine, and they're asking very detailed questions about like a sofa set, right? And whether it's a mom and pop shop or whomever, they're just not ready for that. So being able to churn out these quick start type projects are really beneficial. And what a quick start actually is, I know a lot of different companies do it, and this is my definition of it, definitely not just how I view it, is quick start is getting you up and on the cloud within 4 to 6 weeks. And that's from initial kickoff to your client is live and they're in the system. Why it's so beneficial right now is 4 weeks, a lot can change, right? Salesforce is very agile, but a month-long implementation is not usually heard of, right? When it's done correctly. Doing best practices. So like I said, I have a FinServ background. I know best practice for a REIT, like a real estate investment trust fund. And being able to implement that within 4 weeks from start to finish, those things usually take about 6 months. So as a consultant with a consulting firm, one, is very profitable, but two, you get that you're in the door, and then you can kind of build that partnership for the next, hopefully, several years, right? And the whole goal of it is to build that roadmap, because everyone is freaking out right now. So if they're on Salesforce for the first time, it was probably like either they knew they had to get in the cloud at some point, and this is just like the final straw that broke the camel's back, saying we have to pay for that, or it's been this huge scramble of, okay, we've been working with our spreadsheets and our email and everything in the office, and we have this big whiteboard that we work off of, and we just can't do that anymore. So everyone is looking really for that trusted advisor. And then also keeping the engagement. So we talked about the clients where everything's going really well and they need help. But then what about those clients that are at a complete standstill and had to lay off a decent chunk of their employees? As a consultant and as a consultant firm, one of the worst things to hear is, you know what, we're going to take some time and reset and we'll get back to you. You never want to hear that, because they're not going to get back to you. You're just going to have to go under the rug, and a couple months later you'll try to re-engage, and it's really, really difficult. So some interesting ideas that I've seen in the past couple months. One is switching from project-based to managed services. And the reason why that's working is because there's less pressure, right? So I've had project teams where half of the actual project team ended up being laid off because of COVID, and you just can't move forward, right? So you really have to take that second to reset. By doing it in managed service style, you can adjust your priority. You can take on things that may have been on the back burner that are now really important, and you're not on this very strict SOW. So there is a lot more time for conversations. You can lessen your hours, but the main part is you still have that client on the hook, and you can still keep building out like a really important solution for them. And one last thing that we've seen is just being very flexible in terms of like payment plans and from some of that invoicing and things like that, just understanding that everyone is going through a very difficult time right now, and being very respectful of that. Okay. And also some other things, just to backtrack with keeping the engagement, I have seen kind of doing a reset, doing an org checkup, we call it. So going in and looking at like unnecessary process builders, trying to combine stuff, just going through day in the life with maybe a customer service rep and trying to take out 1 or 2 clicks can make a huge difference. And that's not something that needs like an all hands on deck, or like a refresh training, or like documentation. Like there's always things to do that maybe the consultant can take up those hours and really be beneficial to the client, but the client doesn't need to be so hands-on. All right, so next, how to be a supportive manager. And when I say manager, I am focusing more on delivery managers, delivery practice managers. Those people that are overseeing a group of consultants. Anyone who has worked with me in the past however long, my main mantra is that we are not saving lives here. That's not to downplay that our jobs in the tech field is not super important. And sometimes we're building really cool solutions that do help people, but overall, we're not essential workers. We're not doctors. We're not nurses or EMTs or anything. So it's kind of a reality check, right? So sometimes I find myself freaking out about a deadline or a go live or a change that didn't get deployed and about to flip a table. And I just have to take a step back and be like, hey, it's okay, right? Everything's gonna be fine. And I think as a manager, it's understanding that you have the pressure coming from above you, right? To kind of rally your troops and make everything happen. It's important to remember that what we're doing isn't life or death. Secondly, there are things that are really more important than billable hours, and that's your clients' or your team's well-being, right? And that kind of goes to the third point, where I've worked for several companies that have unlimited PTO, but unfortunately they don't really let you take it, right? So COVID hit, hey, everyone should take a mental health day. There's a lot to process with the pandemic and the racial divide in the country and all these different things that are happening. and you say, okay, I would really like to take a day, and they're like, this is not a good time, right? You have a go live next week, and you're like, okay, well, after go live, well, we have this kickoff coming, and before you know it, you never take that day, and you're trying to digest everything that's happening on top of all of your billable work, and something's going to give, whether it's your professional work starts slipping or your home life starts getting a little bit more stressed out. So I think as a manager, it's important to not just encourage these mental health days and this time to reset, but really mandate it. Like if you as a company say, okay, this Friday we are off, we are not doing anything, it means a lot, right? Because no one feels like, oh, well, I'll take off, but I'll just join this one meeting. And if anyone's like me, it's really hard to flick that switch and actually unplug, even if it's for 8 hours a day. So leading by example and making it a point to value the mental health of your people will go a really long way. And I think now, just talking to some of my friends in the ecosystem, and obviously I made the transition to kind of start my own company and stop my full-time gig, was that with everything that was going on, I was actually pretty reflective. I was like, hey, I'm spending 40, on a good week, 40, 60, 100 hours working a week trying to bill, and why am I doing that? Okay, so people in the Salesforce ecosystem, those of us that are fortunate to be like solution architects and to have some of these certifications under our belt, it's not a huge ecosystem, and if you are succeeding in it, there's a lot of different opportunities for you. And I think as a manager in the consulting space, this is kind of like a make it or break it time to really prove your company culture. So you can say that, hey, we have this great culture, we're very supportive and everything like that. But when it's really tested in a time where you have either a lot of projects and everyone's overworked, or you don't have a lot of projects, and how are you kind of dealing with that, is a time where consultants are going to say, maybe this isn't the best fit for me. Maybe I should try to find another place that kind of values me more. Right? Maybe I was just caught in the wheel for so long that I didn't have time to really digest who I was working with and who I was spending this time with. So I think it's a critical point for managers to really uphold that company culture and make it something that's really important and kind of like on the forefront of their minds all the time. And that will, one, retain talent, and then also bring in more talent. Because I know there's a lot of conversations going on, like, how did your company handle the pandemic? How did your company handle the pandemic? And the ones that are coming up top are the ones that are, one, they're hiring more people because people are working harder for them and they're getting more business. But two, the other companies are really seeing a kind of a mass exodus. And then lastly, how to keep your sanity as a woman, right? It's nuts out here. And it's nuts being in the tech field without all these external factors going on. Like I said in the beginning, like we are doing way better than we were before. We are still severely underrepresented in the tech world and even in the Salesforce world. And that's just the way it is. Like consulting has been a certain demographic for forever. And now since it is tech and it is changing, obviously the population is changing too. But with the pandemic and with all of these extra things going on, whether you have kids at home, whether your kids are being homeschooled, whether you have people that you have to take care of, just all of these external factors compounding on what, I don't want to be too dramatic, but what is already a struggle in the ecosystem, puts us at risk to kind of go back in time, right? And that's what nobody wants. Like everyone who has been a leader in the Salesforce world and in the tech world has like fought really, really hard to be where we are. And we don't want it to be a situation where, okay, I'm on my way to be a techie, but all this stuff happened, let me take a step back, and kind of reverses us all back. So we have to work even harder. And within like 4 or 5 years, we're actually where we are right now, right? Because we go back and come back forward. So I think rather than seeing it as, hey, this is a lot of work, Anna made a great point that Salesforce is not going anywhere. It's really a booming industry, especially that people now see that they can work remotely. They can save a lot of overhead and just have their teams working remotely, which one, opens up talent. So you can be in Idaho working for a New York firm, and really not have to worry about any of that. But it's a great time to get those certifications, to prioritize how you're going to take that step to get into the Salesforce ecosystem, right? The more clients that get Salesforce, the more Salesforce teams and Salesforce admins on the client side jobs are available. So it's really a cool time to kind of push forward, even though I know everyone has a lot on their plate, and understand that the Salesforce ecosystem, whether it's from the client side or as a consultant or a partner, there's so many different, it's like a huge web ecosystem of job opportunities, is something that we can really capitalize on, we as women. And the next bullet point is accountability. So this kind of goes back a little bit to the manager slide, but understanding that your time is very valuable, and the type of company that you're spending all of your time with should be a company that you appreciate their values, right? And holding different companies accountable kind of just sets the standard overall of how we can be treated as employees, how you can be treated as consultants, how you can be treated as women. And then lastly is lending a hand when you can. So like, I know I was very fortunate to have women leaders that I worked under, and they really kind of pulled me up. So it's definitely my duty, right, as I kind of move forward, to be like, hey, I understand the struggle. Let's kind of keep moving forward, right? So since I was given this opportunity, I definitely want to open the gates and give the opportunities to other women, whether they're younger women trying to get into just a career in general, or a little more seasoned women that are like, hey, this is a completely different industry and a different way of thinking, and I think I have the skill set for it, and I just need that one foot in the door to kind of prove myself and to really make things happen. And that's all I have. So again, thank you guys so much for having this forum where we can talk about it. And I understand that COVID is a mess right now, and but I really think that we can come out on the other side stronger than we went in.
100% agree. Thank you so much, Devin. As always, it's a joy to have you. And a couple of questions that we had pop in. What does the transition from a Salesforce admin to a solution architect look like if the admin doesn't have coding experience?
Right. So there's this big misconception that you need to be a coder to do Salesforce. So a little bit about my background. I have a bachelor's in political science, and I have an MBA. If you see the black screen on a computer, I completely glaze over. It's just not my forte, right? So as an admin, if you are an admin now, I would just suggest to try to get as much exposure in the system as possible. So whether you're attending Salesforce events and learning new products, even if you're not really hands-on with those products yet, but just understanding how these projects can impact you and impact your company, it kind of lays some of the groundwork to be more of a solution engineer, right? Which is engineering the solution, for lack of a better term, but understanding how all the pieces fit together. So usually the transition is, okay, I'm an admin. The bigger the company, the more exposure you have, obviously. And then we kind of switch to the consulting side. It definitely is a different beast, right? It's very fast-paced, it's very demanding, and it's just a lot of things being thrown at you all at once, which I think is a lot of fun, but it's definitely a cultural shift. And there's usually a lot of travel required and things like that for your lifestyle. But usually it's like, hey, I'm an admin, I'll be a really strong admin. Then when you get into consulting, there's this whole other skill set of the people skills and the soft skills that you may have, which is great, but usually you have to kind of learn that. So they come into the consulting side as a business analyst, and different companies do it differently. Sometimes business analyst is their own career track, and there are amazing career business analysts out there, and that's what they like to do, and they're phenomenal at it. But a lot of other firms have a BA, and then you kind of transition to an SA, and an SA moves up your technical skills, but also your consulting people skills, and that's kind of how it progresses.
All right, thank you so much. And then another one, what have you found to be the most challenging part of being a woman in the consulting space? As you mentioned, obviously an area somewhat dominated by men.
Yeah, so I think a lot of things, but what stands out is really trying to be able to control the room, especially in financial services. So there have been countless times where I go in, I have a baby face, I look pretty young, and I am the only lady in a room of 25 to 30 middle-aged guys, and really being able to be confident in yourself and move forward. And I have gotten a lot of slack, right? Throughout the years of different comments and like those little microaggressions here and there. And it's important just to be confident in your skill set. And I don't want to say brush them off because they should never be ignored, but showing up and giving your best foot forward and really dominating your project is the best way that you can prove yourself and then prove it for other people, other women.
Fantastic advice. The other question, which I believe would apply to both of you, is, how do you think, what do you think the job market looks like in the upcoming months for people who are newer to the ecosystem using Salesforce Marketing Cloud without any real world experience?
There is this huge opportunity right now in MarTech, marketing technology. So if you've got the basics from a just general marketing standpoint, to learn the tools, I strongly would encourage everyone to do that, because there is a huge upswing in this opportunity right now. People are really looking to, we're becoming, especially with COVID right now, kind of like this blank environment, right? Like people don't know who everybody is. And so companies are really trying to personalize a lot and create that intimacy, that personalization. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity there.
I completely agree. And Marketing Cloud is such a beast that it's very intimidating. So even like myself, yep, as a senior solution architect, like I'm scared of it. and because my biggest fear is like, hey, I'm going to send an email and it's going to go out to everyone. So if you're actually into marketing and you are willing to learn it and understanding that it is such a beast, and especially if you have somewhat of a marketing background, like as an end user on the other side, I agree with Anna, there's a huge need for it in the ecosystem.
It's really fun to see where things are today. When I first started, I felt like I was the only one that was in the room ever. I mean, it was hard. But I feel like women today dominate in a lot of these areas. It may not feel like it, but I promise you, there's a lot more women in technology today than there have ever been. And I see a lot of people really, women supporting other women and really trying to kind of get people comfortable in coming into technology. It's a great, I feel like it's a great professional evener.
I completely agree, because it's so new, right? So like no one has 20 years experience in Salesforce, because it wasn't even, well, actually it was like 25 years experience, because maybe it wasn't as popular back then.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Anna and Devin, so much for your valuable insight and unique perspective.